Hello, I'm going to show you how to divide fractions. But before we jump on into doing the math, I want to show you, well, we have to do some vocabulary, and then I can show you how to divide them. First word we need to learn today is reciprocal. You know, math has its own set of vocabulary, and you have to understand it to be able to work out a lot of the problems and understand what's going on. The reciprocal is just the flip of a fraction. You just flip it over. So the reciprocal of 2/3 would be 3/2. Don't put an equal sign because they are not equal. We're just flipping it over to find the reciprocal. I think you could do this one. You would get 9/4. You could do this one with no problem. You would get 15/1. I would also accept the whole number 15, because 15/1 is 15. This is the one that's tricky. A lot of people think you could just flip the fraction and leave the whole number alone. That is not going to work and get you the right answer, because this is all one number. It just has two parts. That would be like separating the two digits of 25 into two separate things, a 2 and a 5, and they're not. They all go together, okay? All right. Now let's take a look. If we want to do the flip of a fraction, well, first you need a fraction. This is not a fraction, so we're going to make it improper. I hope you remember how to do that. You start at the bottom and you multiply the denominator times the whole number, and then you add that numerator. So 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is, that's right, 11, and you keep your denominator. Now, have I done the reciprocal yet? No, this is not the reciprocal. We now have to flip it over. Actually, these would be equal. And now we're going to flip it over and get 4/11. Okay? So you have to understand reciprocal because we use those when we are dividing fractions. So here I have some steps for you. And I could go through a really long explanation to show you why this little shortcut works. But a lot of times when I show the reason the shortcut works, I confuse people. So generally the math teachers just show you this nice little trick so that you can work them out. And that's what we're going to do. 3 words are what people usually use, and it is keep, change, flip. And those are the first 3 letters. Some people just use KCF, and it's not like the chicken, KFC. It's keep, change, flip. All right. Now you need to know what you're keeping, changing, and flipping, so that's what this part is for. You're going to keep the first fraction. You're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. And then you're going to flip the second fraction, and we're going to use the right words, which is using the reciprocal. Okay? Once you've done that, you've turned it into a multiplication problem. So what you're going to have to do is multiply, and hopefully you've learned the shortcut to look diagonally across and simplify before you do your multiplication, because it makes your number smaller, and sometimes it goes ahead and gets it in the simplest form before you do the multiplication. So you're going to multiply, cancel to simplify, and improper fractions are okay. Elementary school, they treat that like it's horrible. It's not. Middle and high school, it's okay to leave them improper as long as they're simplifying. Okay, let's look at the first problem. It is a division problem, so we've got to remember to keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction, so that would be 9/26. Change division to multiplication. Flip the second fraction. So we're going to flip that one over and make it 13 over 3. So now we're going to cancel. If you look diagonally across, you want to use the GCF. The biggest number that goes into 3 and 9 is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Look, this diagonal, the biggest number that goes into 13 and 26 is, I hope you said 13. And 13 divided by 13 is 1. 26 divided by 13 is 2. Now you're ready to just multiply. This makes the numbers much smaller and you have a lot less chance of making a careless mistake when you're simplifying. When we multiply, remember you just go horizontally and do numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Is there any number that can go into 3 and 2 besides 1? Nope. So there is your simplified answer. Isn't that cool? Love it. Alright, look at the next one. We're going to keep the first fraction, change division to multiplication, and we're going to flip the second fraction, 24 over 7. Alright, now let's see if we can do any canceling diagonally before we multiply. Definitely can cancel here. 7 goes into 7 once. 7 goes into 21 3 times. Now 16 cannot go into 24, but that doesn't mean we can't cancel. What is the number that goes into 16 and 24? Well, it could be 2. It could be 4. And it could be 8. You want to pick the largest because that makes sure that you've simplified as much as you can. So 8 into 24 is 3. 8 into 16 is 2. Now you're ready to multiply straight across. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 1 is 2. Can anything go into 9 and 2 besides 1? Nope. So you are simplifying. Alright, I want you to pause the video, try the next two, and come back when you're finished to check your answers. Alright, so check these last two. I really hope that, there's nothing tricky about number 3. Now number 4, when you got the answer of 4 over 1, that is not simplified. You must write it as a whole number for it to be simplified. Anything over 1 is a whole number. If you need to go back and make corrections, pause the video and come back when you're done. Let's look at some other questions. Now we're not just dividing fractions. We're dividing whole numbers and some mixed numbers. We're going to divide whole and mixed numbers. Oh, my cut off right there. You must make them blank first. Well, over here we were dividing fractions, right? So guess what you're going to do to your whole numbers and your mixed numbers? That's right, we're going to make them improper fractions first. Okie dokie. So we see we're dividing. We know we're going to have to do keep, change, flip. Now, some teachers like to use the math vocabulary, and that would be to multiply by the reciprocal. That's how you divide fractions. They mean the same thing. Multiply, because we're changing it. Flip it over as a reciprocal. So multiply by the reciprocal. But here, I have to make them improper first. So this is not a fraction. Whole numbers, you make them improper by putting it over a 1. So we're going to keep that the way it is. We're going to change division to multiplication. And then we're going to flip that one over. And then how nice is that? We can't do any canceling. 5 times 4 is 20. 1 times 1 is 1. Now if you remember from the last page, you can't leave it here, so don't stop here. We're going to make that a whole number of 20. Alright, so that one wasn't so bad. Let's take a look at the next one. We need to make that, they're both mixed numbers, so we have to make them both improper first. So we're going to do 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, over 2, divided by, now I'm bringing that division down because I don't have a fraction here. This one I did go ahead and do my keep change flip because this was a fraction. This one is not yet, so bring that division down. Don't try to do too much at once. Alright, here we go. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15 over 4. Now we can do our keep, change, and flip. So keep the first fraction, change division to multiplication, and flip this one over to make it the reciprocal. Now, let's look diagonally across. 2 goes into 2 once. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 9 does not go into 15, but there is something that goes into 9 and 15. And that would be 3. So 3 into 9 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now we're ready for our answer. Here we go. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 5 is 5. So that is simplified. S is improper, but leave it be. It's fine. Okay? Now if you did make it improper and you do that correctly, we would not mark that wrong, but generally with middle and high school it's better to leave it improper. Okay? I want you to pause the video and do the next 3. Come back and check it when you're done. Alright, so here are the answers to the last 3. I'm going to point out some common mistakes. First common mistake for all of these is trying to make them improper and flip that second fraction all in one step. I don't suggest doing that. The second most common mistake would be on this one. Remember, if it can equal a whole number, you need to make it a whole number. And this one was a little harder. But if you didn't simplify before you did your multiplying, your answer would have been 52 over 126, and then you probably would not simplify that correctly. So don't give up on these crazy bigger numbers. They're both even, so you know 2 would go into both. If you need to, pause the video and fix your papers. I really hope you now understand how to divide fractions. And the way we do that is to multiply by the reciprocal, or keep, change, flip. Thanks.